what's up, geeks? So hopefully you liked that little walkthrough. Yesterday, my cat actually died, so I wanted to do something nice, and I went for a little walk and made sure I made a nice little burial for her. But anyways, that's not the topic of this video. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the realities of what it takes to become a software developer. I feel like there's a lot of just confusion because you're getting information everywhere, and I'm just going to give you a solid idea of the reality of becoming a software developer, and then depending on your position, how long it will take you to actually get employed as a software developer. So let's get into it. So project length. Honestly, the length of the project is going to depend on the developer. Put it like this, like earlier this summer, right? I haven't been lifting weights for about 6 years, and I couldn't even lift 225 pounds. I weigh about 200 pounds, and it was this guy who looked like he had no business being in the gym, and he can lift 225 pounds. Now, after working out with my friends, it inspired me to get back into the gym. So, I want to say about after 3 months, I was able to bench press 295 pounds. Now, the reason I say that is because it really doesn't depend on the length of the project. It depends on your ability to remember a skill set. You can build a website. Anybody can build a website, but right after you build that website, you might forget what you did. So it depends. You may have to do more repetitions than one person, or you may have to do less. So the project length itself isn't really what matters. What matters is your ability to remember the tools that you're using. For example, a lot of these companies, what they'll go ahead and do, they'll ask you specific questions about these certain tech stacks, and then really deep knowledge that is involved within a specific tool. Now, even if you built a website, you may not even remember that tool because your just familiarity is just off. So in order for you to really, you may struggle remembering that tool just because your mind hasn't really grasped the concept yet. As opposed to somebody can read a book in an hour before the interview and remember everything that they read. So when somebody's interviewing you, they just want to know if you're familiar with those tools, and then they want to get an idea of, like, they want to look at your GitHub and see, okay, we've had a good interview with this guy. We looked at this person's project. We can see the complexity of this project. They don't necessarily need to see all these commit history, even though that's nice because they get an idea of how you think and how you built that project over a long period of time. But ultimately, they want to see if you actually can build something. They want to see if you understand the relationship between that. Because when you get hired, they're not expecting you to know everything. They just want to get a feel for, okay, is this person actually familiar with this tool? Have they created something with this tool? And then based off what they created, do we feel like they can actually be a part of this team and actually work on their own without anybody holding their hand? And don't get it mistaken. If you're a beginner, they know that on some level, someone's going to have to assist you and point you in the right direction, but they just want to get a good feel for what to expect from when they actually bring you on to the team. Now, I mentioned this before in an earlier video, but the mistake a lot of beginners make is they're trying to learn too many different tools. That's not necessary. You really only need to learn one specific tool. Say if you're trying to do back end, you're trying to do front end, or you're trying to do whatever. Regardless of what you're trying to do, there's going to be certain tools that come with what you're doing, and there may be a variety of different tools. Now, you're hurting yourself by getting stuck up in the variety. You need to just choose one skill, choose one language, learn that language. If it's front end, learn JavaScript. There's plenty of frameworks. If it's the back end, I know there's like Python, there's PHP, JavaScript as well. But the point is that you want to get really good with one tool. And you want to show that you understand. You want to show that you understand algorithms. You understand how to do software development. I was going to say programming, but it wouldn't be accurate. You want to show that you understand software development, because if you can learn one tool really good, the company is just going to assume, like, okay, we don't use this, but we can teach you that. For example, a company that I was just hired by, they know that I'm familiar with SQLize. Now, if you've worked with databases, there's a database called Microsoft SQL Server. And to actually query and get that data on the API side, there's a tool called Sequelize. Now, I've used Sequelize. I'm familiar with Sequelize, but for whatever reason, the companies that I've been interviewing, they don't use Sequelize. They use GraphQL or something like that. So it didn't phase the company that I didn't know GraphQL. They just want to know what I've done in the past, and because I've done like Sequelize and I have history, they know that I can learn anything. But yeah, when you choose one tool, it just allows you to master something. It allows you to build your confidence. That's the most important thing. Because I know it's intimidating when you first get into software development. I know it was for me. You know, I spent a lot of money trying to learn a variety of different things, but it's just not necessary. Pick one tool and just become good at it, man. You don't have to be the best. Just become comfortable doing it. You know, go on a few forums, answer some questions, and I'm telling you, that's more than enough to actually become a software developer. I want to make sure I get these beautiful mountains in here. But when it comes to the actual job, the interview process, honestly, the most important thing, the first thing that they're actually trying to figure out is if you're a good cultural fit. You know, at least from my experience, when you have your first interview, it's more just like the small conversation. It's an hour, you might meet with two people, and they just want to see how they vibe with you. You know, if they vibe with you pretty well, there's a good chance that the rest of the team will like you. So I think that that's the number one. And you don't want to be somebody that you're not, because you're going to have to work for these people. So I would just focus on trying to be my best self when it comes to the actual job interview process. And then don't get so caught up on getting hired by that exact company, because if you're a software developer, you're going to have more than enough interviews. And I just wouldn't let that faze me. So just remember that cultural fit is a high priority. And just from personal experience, you don't want to work for a company and work for a group of people who don't really value what you have to say and really don't feel like you're a part of the team, regardless of what your skill set is. You know, they just won't listen to you. So after you figured out if they liked you or not, then you get another interview. And that interview is usually going to be like the coding test. They're going to test you on, like, if you're a web developer, most likely they're going to test you on the algorithm. If it's a large scale company, they're going to test you on the algorithm. Now, if it's like a medium to small, especially small, they're more flexible, because they're just trying to find somebody to help them fill that position. So you may not have to do a coding interview. I had interviews with smaller companies, and honestly, even the algorithm I had to do, it didn't even matter if I got it right. They just wanted to see how I can think, and I only had 10 minutes to do it, so I finished it, but it was kind of like, whatever. They told me it really didn't matter, and it really didn't matter, you know. So if you're working for a large level company, it's almost promised that they're going to give you a coding exam. So that's number two. If they like you, that's number one, and then number two is the coding interview. Now, number three is going to be the competition. Now, by competition, I don't mean the competition between you and the person you're trying to get hired. You're trying to beat for that position. By competition, what I mean is, how high in demand is your tool? For example, the company that I was recently hired by, right? One of the managers, they said, Darron, I don't know what it is. It's like everybody knows React, but it's like when it comes to React Native, they only know bits and pieces of React Native, or they might have dabbled in it a little bit. That's what his words he used. They might have dabbled in it a little bit. And I explained to him, I said, look, man, what it is that whether you're in high school, or whether you're in grade school or it's college, more than most likely, people have learned how to do software development on the web. And because mobile development is so new and it's so unstable, because you can literally write a book and then a few months later, that book is not completely, but some of the dependencies have been like updated or etc., updated or deprecated. You know, so it's just not for academics. It's just not a good idea for them to actually say, okay, we're going to have a mobile development course, or we're going to teach you how to code in mobile development. So most developers who get out of college, they only have web experience. So for them to even get that mobile development experience, it means that they had to put in a lot of work on their own time. And let's keep it real. Most people that go to college, they're in college because their parents want them to go to college. And whatever field that they're studying, their parents want them to be doctors, their parents want them to be lawyers, their parents want them to be an engineer because of the money that comes with it. But to be a mobile developer, you have to put in the time like in the off season. And a lot of people aren't wanting to do that. And I explained that to him, like, hey man, you know, that's the reason. So because of that, the competition for me is very low. And with that being said, I've had about 5 interviews, 5 to 6 interviews, and then out of those 5 to 6, 2 companies wanted me. And even those 5 to 6 companies, I thought that each one of them were going to hire me, but then I got that email. It's like, hey, we decided to go somewhere else. That's the nature of getting a job. It's the cultural fit, it's the coding portion, and then it's the competition. You know, the people that didn't hire me, it may have been a cultural fit. They may have felt like, hey, you know, he's a cool dude, but we just don't know. And what it is that we just don't know if we like him or if we can work with him or not. That's just how it is. And if you're a web developer or you're picking a tool that isn't really in high demand, most likely there's going to be more competition for that position. And the thing that's going to set you apart is them liking you. And if you're doing something on the mobile side, like what I'm doing, you know, there's going to be less competition, and there's going to be a lot more opportunity. So regardless if they like you or not, they're likely to hire you. I've had companies hire me, and then people that, you know, I worked with didn't really vibe with me well. And I had people who I worked with that did vibe with me that I liked. That's just the nature of life, you know. You like a girl, she doesn't like you, you know. That's the way it is, you know. So don't get too butthurt if a company rejects you. All right. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.